Hello and welcome to the latest edition of This Racing Life. Coming your way this week, we go to Barbary Castle to talk to assistant to Alan King, Dan Horsford, and Don McLean is over in Ireland to speak to a man enjoying a fine season in the form of trainer Noel Meade. First, we've come to Apple Tree Stud to talk to ex-Jockey and stud manager Choc Thornton. First thoughts on turning up here to see you, Choc, are wow. This is Apple Tree Stud. It looks fantastic. It also looks, all the buildings in and around us now are quite new. Is that the case?
Yeah, they're relatively new. I think that we were finished. About 3 years ago. It's still very much a sort of a project in its infancy, and we're building it slowly from the roots. It's a breeding operation, flat race orientated, and we want to breed good quality flat horses. And
how did you, as an ex-jump jockey, come to be here and doing what you're doing now?
I was very fortunate in the fact that I rode for Paul Dunkley, who owns the Horsford and the beautiful buildings you can see now. I rode for him while he had horses with Alan King, and we got on great. I ended up renting a barn conversion off him through a bit of bad luck through divorce, unfortunately, but good came of bad, and I've been here ever since. That was 2011, and we've slowly developed and built the premises over that period of time.
So it was never a case of you know, when the inevitable happens as a jump jockey and you start having to think about retirement, it wasn't a case of this was the obvious next step, it was just how it worked out?
No, it's how it worked out, and I was very, very fortunate. Back in 2014, just before I had the last fall that finished everything, if you'd have asked me what I was doing next, I wouldn't really have known. I wouldn't have been sure anyway. I wasn't sure which direction to go in. Very much thrown in at the deep end with the breeding side of things. I've said in the past that through 20 years of riding, I felt like I'd wandered around with my eyes closed and, you know, not took in as much as I probably should. But we're learning all the time. I feel that the place is progressing, and you know, we're close to some success.
And it was good timing, I suppose, for you, but also Paul, with you coming to work here once you retire, because of, I suppose this is an operation that was growing, so it was a nice fit for both of you.
Yeah, I mean, it fitted very well. At that period of time, there was only the barn that I was renting and a couple of rickety old buildings, and over a period of time, Paul got the planning permission. We looked at various things to do with the place. I got injured and was sort of employed on a consultancy basis to help develop the place. And then, unfortunately, fortunately, after I had my accident in 2014 at Chepstow, the job position was here for me to step into.
What, when you're getting an operation like this, not just off the ground, but when you're taking it on to the next level, what are the things perhaps since you've been here that you found the trickiest?
The trickiest, numbers really. Racing industry on whole is I feel a numbers game, and to get that one good horse, you need plenty of bullets to fire, if you like. And with the numbers we're dealing with at the minute, it's quite it's quite hard to guarantee that you're going to produce what you want to produce. But like I said, we're very much in our infancy. So I think we're going into our 4th year, which is nothing in the no span of time in the breeding industry, and we're trying to just sort of develop and expand things slowly. We're certainly using the right stallions. I think we've got some nice mares here. We've got some nice 2-year-olds going into training this year. We've got a couple of Galileo fillies, which will hopefully be good enough to come back as brood mares. And you know, there's a couple of homebreds. I've got a nice Oasis Dream filly with William Haggis. She looks like she could be okay, and hopefully they'll come back to be foundation mares.
It's all about the long term, isn't it? When you look at flat racing now, and you see the talk about precocity and the need for speed and immediate success, but actually when you're looking on this side of it, you've got to have the long term game plan.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I've learnt very quickly. It's certainly not an overnight fix. you think you've got your 2-year-old, you've got your 2-year-old runner. Well, it just does not work like that. There's so many things that you've got to put into things, and it's all about the longevity of the place and expanding and getting the right kind of quality.
Is it the right fit for you that you're now doing this? You know, somebody that was a hugely successful jump jockey, but I suppose didn't necessarily, as you say, have an exact plan what to do. Has it just turned out this is the right fit for you? Training was never...
No, training wasn't for me. I'm quite impatient, and it's something I've got to curb in this game. You're expecting everything now, and because you expect everything now, there is no now. You're always looking for the next thing, and I think I'd have been very impatient to train. Like I said, there wasn't, while I was riding, I didn't take enough notice of what was going on around me, and it just wasn't for me. It was something I never really wanted to do and never even contemplated doing.
Who were some of the best horses you rode for Paul?
For Paul, Medemet was probably the best. He stood behind you over there, looking in happy retirement.
He was a mighty horse.
He was fantastic. He was braver probably, or he had more courage than he had ability, I think. It would be fair to say, although he was a very good horse, he won the Scilly Isles, the Grade 1 round Sandown, the chase. And after that he was favourite for the Arkle, which unfortunately he could only manage to finish 4th in. But still a great run, and he was placed at a couple of festivals. He was 2nd in the Supreme Novices, which I think he actually should have, well, I thought at the time he should have won. I got turned sideways by Patrick Mullins after the last, and I got beat. I think it was Go Native. I only got beat sort of half a length by Go Native, and I think he might have won that day. He was 3rd in a Ryanair, but behind Riverside Theatre, Barry Garrity Road, and again he was actually in front just after the last. And
that was the year that Nicky could do no wrong?
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
So
exactly.
you were always up against it.
Yeah, always up against it. But he was great. He was a great horse, and a you know, one of the good old yardsticks.
It must be quite nice for him to be here actually now, given that link between you and Paul, and I suppose he's the linchpin of that. It must be quite nice for you to get to see him every day.
Yeah, completely. I mean, it was off the back of him that I ended up here, won a Haldon Gold Cup. Paul rang me afterwards. I told him the situation I was in, and he said, "There's a barn on the farm. Go and rent that off me." So I'm very much indebted to them, and I love working here. It's fantastic.
Just on the sort of live racing side of things, where are you with that? Are you somebody that sits down and will still go through the cards and watch racing for every day, or is this a different approach now and you're quite happy with that?
It's a different approach. I don't sit down and I would sit in the office in the morning and look through cards and see what's running, and in particular what Alan's got running. This time of year, always keep a note of it. If there's anything that I should watch, I'll try and catch it live. If I haven't caught it live, there's always the replays that you can go back on now and flick up on the Racing Post. There's no issues there. I
suppose that the difference being now that there are horses in training, but you've got to be more abreast of the flat side, and actually the jumps game is more hobby if it's there for you.
Yeah, completely. I mean, we did buy a jumper for Alan this year, and unfortunately that hasn't worked out. But that's nobody's fault, because last year it was tremendous success with Rhodesian,
of course.
And we'll continue to support Alan with jumpers, and he's now having a couple of our flat horses as well. So. It's really nice that the connection in that respect is there between myself, Paul and Alan. It's great. It's great to keep in touch.
Now, a man that had just arrived on the scene at Alan King's, while Choc Thornton was at the peak of his powers as a rider, is assistant trainer Dan Horsford, who tells us about his time at Barbary Castle and his hopes for the future. Dan, how long have you been here at Alan King's now?
I've been here nearly 8.5 years, pushing 9, so good amount of time.
And was that always from you growing up, did you think as early as possible you wanted to get into a yard? What was it you wanted to do?
Well, I just loved racing from a young age. I mean, if we go way back, it was my gran originally who would have got me into it, the family into it. She had had to bring up my dad and uncle on her own, so I had a few part-time jobs, one of which was in a bookie. So yes, she got following the racing because of that. My family is sort of southwest London, so no sort of exposure to horses at all. then offer from her, my dad sort of picked it up, and then when I came along from knee high, I was going along to the races. So yeah, Sandowns, Ascots, Kemptons, all of them, you know, I was going along and just picked up the bug for it from there, really.
It's interesting ways of getting into horses. I think you have that angle of, you know, you've either grown up in a family that's ridden them and that side of it, or in and around them, or there's that side, as you say, not just the bookie side, but going to the races, going as a fan. I suppose that's where it originated for you, is it?
Exactly, yeah. So every weekend, I mean, my weekend was just full of sport. I mean, played a lot of football as a kid. Racing was Saturday afternoon, football sort of Sunday morning, and yeah, it was just sport all the way through, really. Love racing, just went whenever I could, really.
And what about the riding side? I mean, did that just come naturally to you? Is that something you always wanted to do? Do you going racing and looking at horses and think, I want to get on one?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I always wanted to get involved, and like I said, around the area that I grew up, there wasn't much exposure to do that. It was actually one of the boys in my brother's football team who had an uncle who was a head lad in Lambourne. It was with Ian Woods at the time, and we went along to one of their open days, the Lambourne Open Days. Had a chat with him and sort of discussed how I could get into it, and he said that there was a trainer sort of starting up, had been going a few years, Jim Boyle in Epsom, who was not far away from us at all. He said you go along there and sort of have a quick word with him and see if you can see what you can do, really. So that was 13. When I was 13, approached him on the Downs and sort of asked if I could sort of go in there on Saturdays and holidays and whatnot, and that's where it all started, really. So. No, learnt a lot in there. I was there 3 years, and then from there went to basically learnt how to ride in there, really. And
that's just on Jim and Epsom in particular. I think, as you say, from London, and that's where I was as well. I think that Epsom hub and that London hub for people wanting to get in and around yards is so important.
It is, yeah. I mean, none of my friends at school were remotely interested in racing, and you know, I'm sure there are plenty of them that you know, if they were, they might be in the sort of same boat as me and would have wanted to get into it. I don't know, but you know, I had that interest from my family was so interested that I picked it up off them. But you know, if you can get a few more of them involved, there's plenty of people there who maybe would do.
And then making a transition to this yard. I mean, how did that come about in particular with Alan?
Well, I mean, before. I was with the yard I was with before here was Warren Greatrix, and it was actually Wayne Hutchinson who used to ride out in there, and I was just asking a few of the guys that used to come in, you know, suggestions on where I could move to, and he said, you know, there'd be worse places than Alan to come to, so I sort of came here that way.
What would be, I mean, now obviously you've progressed in the 8.5, 9 years you say you've been here. Now, what's your day-to-day like, Dan?
Well, I mean, so I'm assistant trainer here now. We've got 2 yards. The yard I run is about 2 miles down the road from where Alan's based. We've got 43 boxes. Most of the time we're full, and yeah, the day-to-day running of that, basically, that's what I do. So in the morning, every morning I'd ring Alan. I'd have the board and what every horse is sort of. I'd have that sorted out, and then a phone call, and we run through everything, what every horse is going to do. Alan would be over every lot to sort of see them up the hill and whatnot. But the day-to-day running from there, you know, basically, yeah, I do that. So.
And essentially, Alan trains the horses, and his name is on the licence, of course. But when it comes to horses in your yard, you know, essentially, I suppose you are training those horses on a day-to-day basis.
Oh no, look, Alan's training them for sure, but yeah, I mean, we take care. We've got full care of them, really. I mean, we've got plenty of nice horses down there. I mean, Yarmouth's down with me. We've got Mia's Storm. Fiddux has done very well this year. Azerty he's done well since going chasing this year. So we've got plenty of nice horses and have done over the years. Boulder Success was down with us. Loveson, he was a Grade 1 winner. Kumbaschwa, Rare Star. There've been plenty of nice horses down with us. I mean, and it's not as if we've got just the babies down with us or just the flat horses or whatever. I mean, you couldn't really do that because the staff then you've got there would lose interest if you just had babies and they won't be going racing and so on. But no, look, it works the way we do it, and yeah, no, we have plenty of success. So.
When Boulder was here and winning all those races, were you down here looking after him and the yard at the time?
Yes.
Would he be this sort of, he amongst Kumbashra and the others you mentioned, they're the sort of flagship horses to come out the yard.
Yeah, I mean Yanworth's been pretty good. Boulder Success. Yanworth's won 2 Grade 1s. Boulder Success wins Grade 1.
There is Yanworth as well, absolutely. Yeah.
I've got a bit of a soft spot for him. I ride him every day, so no, he's pretty good. But yeah, we've had plenty of good horses. So yeah.
Just, I mean, explain how things in 8.5 years from when you first turned up here fresh, how things would have changed for you in that time.
Well, I came here as sort of wanting to be sort of an amateur jockey type thing. Didn't have the dedication for it, basically. I mean, these jockeys are seriously dedicated, aren't they? So
was size an issue as well?
Yeah,
you're not short.
No. Yeah, look, I'm just over 6. I'm nearly 6'1". So. Yeah, I was plenty tall enough, but it's weight, and I was probably too heavy. Like I'd be 10, 11 stone now, so that was always going to catch up with me. And like I say, yeah, I didn't really have the dedication for it, and training was what I wanted to do.
And I think, particularly at the moment, we talk about this stable staff crisis which exists, and people are talking about progression in yards isn't always easy. I mean, from your personal experience, since you started from Jim onto Warren to here, you've seen quite good progression.
I've been lucky, yeah. I mean, I suppose you have to be lucky, and everything's got to sort of fall right. And I was lucky Noel Williams was here before me, and it just sort of coincided that I knew he was leaving up to about a year before he did, and had a word with Alan then, and sort of said I wanted to sort of go down the sort of assistant trainer type route, which he was more than happy to. He decided that I was lucky that he decided to sort of go down that route with me. But yeah, I've been very lucky. I was young then, and I was lucky that he took a punt on me from I was just turned 22 when I took over the yard. So no, I was very lucky.
Where do you see the career path for you personally going from here?
I'd love to train. I'd be in no rush to. I'd like to get as much experience under my belt as I can and build up as many contacts. That would be the end game, and I'd be in no rush to do that at the moment.
Is there an age you sort of set yourself, or is it just when the time feels right that you might look to set up on your own?
I suppose when the time feels right. I mean, I'd be looking early 30s. I'm 27 now, so I suppose early 30s would be when I'd be looking to sort of make the move across, yeah.
And when is it that being a trainer, I know that's the path you tend to follow, assistant trainer on setting up on your own. When was it that became not just a possibility in your mind, but a real desire in your own head?
I suppose from when I was young, really, before I'd even really got involved, I'd always had an interest. I mean, yeah, I wanted to sort of ride, but that would have only been just to pass time, really. And like I say, didn't have the dedication for that. So I've always sort of wanted to sort of. I've been more interested in the training side of things. So from when I was very young, really, and I've been very lucky so far in that I've done what I've done with Alan, and yeah, I look forward to the future, really.
And it's not for everyone. It's a tough role, a unique role in many ways, and you don't get much time off. But what is it about for you that you love about it, and why is it you want to do that?
I just I mean, the buzz you get off training big winners and so on, and just training any winner, really. I mean, it doesn't matter how good, to what level they are. It can be a lesser horse, and just getting them to win, and just the buzz of getting anything to win, really. Winners. That's the bottom line of it, isn't it? Really. So that buzz is what I love. Well, we try to anyway.
I mean, that must be such a big thing as well. We talk about horses in form, but I suppose it's the humans in and around them as well. And if you have a bad few weeks, which just here at Barbary Castle as a whole, it must affect you. It can get in the heads of the guys and girls working. So momentum and positivity must be a big thing. Yeah,
it makes a huge difference. I mean, they always say, what do they say? They sort of say, happy staff, happy horses, and I think that, there's a lot of truth in that. So yeah, we just try and get on as much as we can. Like I say, you have the odd fallout, but that's nature, isn't it, really?
With Cheltenham around the corner, and we are getting there now, and are you happy with everything? You're happy with what you're seeing, and with how not just the horses here are, but the horses up in the other yard as well? There seems a little bit of confidence going forward to that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, look, we've had plenty of winners recently, so I mean, that's if we can hold our form through to sort of Cheltenham, then hopefully we can. I mean, we've had 3 years when we haven't had a winner, but it's just so competitive now with the guys coming over from Ireland and whatnot. It doesn't make it easy for us to pick up any winners. But
you were only a short head away last year on day one, yeah. So there you go. Things can change pretty quickly, can't they?
Of course it can, yeah. So no, we'll see what happens, but hopefully they'll go well.
Over to Ireland now, and a man who is enjoying an excellent season as a trainer. Noel Meade talks to our very own Don McLean.
I think people don't realise how great it is to have a jockey who has experience riding for you, because I wasn't a jockey myself, so it's hard to give instructions. Well, when you have good fellas riding for you, you don't have to give them instructions. Like, I mean, when Paul was riding for me, I rarely ever gave him instructions, or when Barry or any of those guys, and Sean is there now as well. Like, we talk about the race here, we're having breakfast and we talk about it and say, well, and what do you think, and what do you think, and we have a chit chat. But basically, the jockeys do the riding, and I just throw in a few sort of, maybe you'd be better handy or take your time or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But I almost found with Paul, and he was confused and more to say anything, so I gave it up. I didn't say that to him at all, other than he stays or he doesn't.
Yeah.
But he, like, Mark has been great in that respect. He's slotted in very well. I'm thrilled for Mark, and I'm thrilled because he's a lovely fella as well as everything else, and it all happened by accident. It wasn't. Mark arrived down because he was training a few pointers, and he said to one of the lads one day, he said, would you mind if he came in just to ride out to see what we do, because he said he wanted to go on. And I remember Gordon said to me one day, you know, he says that Mark O'Hare, he says, anything he ever does, he does it well. He said it doesn't matter whether it's riding horses or training them or selling them or whatever. He said he's very good at what he does, and playing football or whatever, you know, he's just very good at it. And he came, and the next thing is Nina was going, and he just sat in. Of course, he won then on he had a £5 claim, and he won on, I think, 5 out of 8 rides or something like that. So
historically, you've always had a stable jockey or a stable amateur, even on the flat as well. You've always had a rider who's been your number one the whole way through. Yeah, well, I think I was lucky for a while that Charlie, when he was riding, was Charlie Swan, when he was riding, gave me a great run. He used to ride he rode a lot of winners for me, and he was riding. He rode for us nearly till Paul. Before Paul started, he rode a lot, and he used to ride number one for me then. And before that, I had Tommy Carmody, who was he was at the time. He was working for John Mulhern, but John Mulhern only had a very few horses. Right. And we had a kind of a deal, Tommy and myself, that he'd ride. If I wanted him to ride, he'd ride. And he knew if I wanted him that was worth riding. So hence the situation, because Tommy was very down to earth about the way things go, and like when he got up on it, he thought it should win, and if it didn't win, he had no time. Like, I mean, the biggest problem I used to have was I used to have to get rid of him away from the horse as quick as possible, because he could say something to an owner. Because if the horse won, he did exactly what Tommy thought he should have done. Right. If he didn't win, he was only a hubble. You know, so that was the way. So he'd say, look, Tommy, now I'll talk to the owner, you go and do that. But I was lucky to have them, and then of course, as I say, I had Paul, and he went off to England, and we had Barry came along, and Barry was champion with us. Yeah. And then Paul came back, and Paul was with us for so long then. But Sean, because Sean just happened to be here when Paul was.
Well, yes and no. He came in to ride out, and I had been watching him before, because he had come to me. He came in the middle of his when things didn't go so good for him. He came in to ride out. He asked, could he come in to ride out? And there really was no rides for him, but I had seen him, and he was keen to come in and to ride and to whatever. So I had kept an eye on him after that. And when he came back to me, then I said to Paul, I said, what do you think of this fella? And he says to me, I have never seen anything. This fella do anything wrong, he said. Really? And he's tough. He says, he's tough. And he says, I've never seen him do anything wrong. And then, like, jockeys are like trainers, or like footballers, or like golfers. When things are going right, they go right. And the more, like, the reason, we were just talking about it actually the other day. If things are going right for a jockey, he gets more rides. The more rides he gets, the more winners he rides. The more winners he rides, the more rides he gets, and things go up. And it's the same training. If you train winners, you get more horses. The more horses you get, the more winners you train. The more winners you train, the more horses you get. And it's like that. It also crumbles the same as well. You know, if someone pulls the card out, the whole thing falls down just the same. Because if you have a whole lot of horses and they're not winning, and the next thing is someone starts to go, and the next thing, bum, bum, bum. And the same thing for the jockey. If he gets beaten on a couple, he's on the ground a couple, oh, no, man, oh, God. Yeah. The next thing is,
I'm not putting him up. I'm not putting him up. I know. And I'm sure every one of the jockeys, from the top to the bottom, will tell you the same thing. And I'm sure every one of the trainers will tell you. Aidan might, because he's never been there. but that's the way it works. And it's like that. And it's the same with. It doesn't matter whether the jockeys are footballers. Like, I mean, the fella that missed the penalty is only a Wally. The fella that kicked the 3 goals, he's great. Now, he might have been after playing terrible, but he got 3 goals. He's grateful. But anyway, jockeys improve when they're riding. They have confidence. I'm a great believer in the fact that you have to give them the confidence. That you can't be, if you're continually giving out in the jockeys, they won't ride with confidence. Yeah. But once they ride with confidence, and listen, they have to be able to ride first though. You can't just pluck a fella out and say, here,
ride with confidence.
Ride with confidence. He has to be able to ride.
Yeah.
And of course, Sean had a lot of experience, which was great, because that meant that he didn't have to do that. It takes a lot of time, money and effort to make a jockey. Like, we have a couple of very nice riders in the yard at the moment, Max Brown and Owen Walsh and Nathan Brennan, and the 3 of them all ride well. And I'm sure they will, if they persevere and things go right, they will make jockeys. But it just takes a lot of time, and you have to get them on those horses. And you know, like even the top fellas will tell you that they made a hames of it a couple of times before they got it right, and they just have to learn. And it's hard to get horses for them to learn on and to give them, like I do, try and put them up on my own, but it's hard to get for owners to put them up on their horses, you know. Yeah. And but Sean had a lot of experience, and when he got on the good horses and with that experience and a bit of confidence, it's all come together well. And he's very good in the yard. He's here practically every day, and he knows the horses inside out.
Well, that's it for this week. Thanks to everyone that's been a part of the show, and thanks to you at home for watching. We'll see you again next week.